Hello, awesome people. I hope you're all doing well and feeling amazing. We are back here with a new podcast for you. In this episode, I have Elizabeth, who is an old school friend of mine. We talk about that in the episode, and we are going to talk about amine intolerance, which is it's a food or it's actually a chemical intolerance, but it's also a food intolerance. And this chat for me was enlightening and amazing and a lot of fun, and I hope you get as much out of it as I did. It does come with a little warning. When you go and you get to the part where we get to the little warning, please understand that learning and discovering and going forward with food intolerance does by no means mean that, or we in this conversation are by no means telling you to stop taking medications that you are taking. So, if you recognize, hear, or understand parts of yourself in this conversation, please go and talk to a medical professional, your doctor, dietitian, that kind of stuff, before changing anything that's going on in your life. And I'll be back later with my takeaways from this conversation. But here it is, my conversation with Liz, and talking about amines and, biochemical intolerance and stuff. See you on the other side. Computer, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, awesome people. Welcome back to the Good to Go pod. I hope you're all feeling amazing, as always. I have my friend, Liz. Hi, Liz.
Hi.
Here. Liz is in Australia. Liz and I went to school together, back with the dinosaurs.
Yes.
And we've reconnected in recent years, and I got some fascinating things that I'm going to ask her all kinds of questions about. But Liz, before we get started, tell everybody who you are and what do you do?
Oh, okay. So I am Liz, and I live in Sydney, Australia. I've lived all over the world, though. Actually, that's not quite true. There's several continents I haven't got to see yet. Right now, I am a podiatrist, but before I was a podiatrist, I gave motherhood a good crack, which I'm still doing, but not full time anymore.
I was going to say,
yes.
And are you not a mother anymore?
No, still am. But before that, I had a career in international health development. So I used to work on HIV prevention in developing countries, particularly in prisons and refugee camps and places like that,
wow.
Which I loved very much. And before that, I had a career in, journalism that got lost in international public health. So yes, I guess that's a few things.
Cool.
So, yes.
Fun.
Yeah, all of them were fun.
Yeah. So, and my reason for other than the fact that I'm enjoying having reconnected with you
it is fun
after all these years, and even though we only ever really chat on Facebook, it's a fun relationship. But one of the things that I want to bring to this session today is you're forever commenting on these biochemical, how could I forget that word? Sorry, stress or performance.
Yeah, that's right.
Performance anxiety. Anyway, so you've done all this research on yourself, right?
Yes,
for how your body is creating different chemicals with different foods we eat and blah 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 blah. Lots of big words there, and it fascinates me, right? Because coming from my perspective, I think a lot of the time we negate, or we're not even given permission to do what you've done, which is to go and do the research and find out what is going on in your body to create different moods, to create anxiety that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. You put a post up the other day where you're like having a conversation between different parts of your brain.
That's my brain.
Yes. It's awesome, right? Yes. And I'm sitting there reading it going, God, my brain does this. I lie awake at 3 a.m. And I know it happens to me when I've been drinking red wine. So I've stopped drinking almost altogether, and now I sleep better.
Well done.
I know.
No, right? That's really good. Congratulations.
but why? Because it never used it anyway. So I guess
I can tell you why. I mean,
yeah,
I can guess
I
why.
want to know
but,
why.
you
No, but I
yeah.
want to know why. Like, you've done the research. I don't have the willpower, the ability, or the time, quite frankly, to go and do that research myself. But you've done it, and I want to hear about it. So let's start with wine. Wine's a fairly common factor there for a lot of people. As I've gotten older, and I'm guessing this is, well, no, let me back it up. Let me back it up. What prompted you to go and do this research in the first place? Like, what made you sit down and go, okay, I need to work out what's going on here?
Right. Well, look, the best way to summarize is that as I got older, and by older, I mean into my mid to late 30s, I started to have a lot of mood symptoms. So I thought I was getting these sort of crashing downers, and but they weren't all the time. But when they did turn up, they were crushing for a few days at a time. And I started to be able to sleep less and less. And I got to the point where I couldn't stay asleep for more than about 2 hours in a row. And I got a bit desperate. But I wasn't completely at sea. I was very lucky in that my father had gone through the same thing at the same age, except back in the 70s. So my father is now 82. He's been a doctor for 60 years. He took some time out during his medical degree to also study pharmacology. So in the early 70s, he and my mother, who's also a doctor and a very observant scientist, noticed that his mood would crash suddenly and he'd get incredibly agitated. And he could sometimes be really, really difficult to get along with. Like, he'd suddenly think you were being terrible to him when you're just saying hello, or he felt like he hadn't accomplished anything in his life and that his life was a terrible failure. And I mean, at that time, he was a prolific publisher of medical journal articles and, you know, was a postdoctoral researcher in radiology as well as being a practicing doctor. So he probably wasn't failing in life, actually, you know. And so things got so fraught with my father's mood that my mother, who was very religious, said to him, look, why don't we go to the church couples counseling retreat thing, right?
I'm sorry. Can I just throw in there?
Yes, go ahead.
A little bit of history, because Liz and I, if you're watching this on the YouTube, Liz and I are sitting here giving us little acknowledgement nods.
Smiling each other.
We both grew up within the Seventh-day Adventist community in Sydney, and if you are listening to this and grew up in that same community, you'll be giving me the same smiley nods.
We love you guys.
If you want to talk about growing up in that community, get in contact with me. I'm happy to talk
That's
about it.
A whole
I'm
other
going to go into
podcast,
it right now.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so my mother, who loves the Lord very much and still does, said, come to church couples counseling retreat. And they left the house.
This is before oh my God.
Yes, indeed. But, you know, it was very difficult and she wanted moral support, and they were living in a foreign country. They were living in America. And she was like, okay, what do I do? So she said, come on, let's go. So they set out very, very happy on the road to the place. And on the way, they stopped at a roadside diner and my dad had a chili burger. And between when he ate the chili burger and when he got to the couples counseling retreat, he went from the happy person who was, you know, interested in, you know, getting their problem solved to just this incredibly almost paranoid, agitated, angry person who just downloaded every possible thing about how terrible my mother was. And within a day and a half, that was gone again.
Wow.
My mother, who is an extraordinary person in her own way, said, you know what, I don't think this is our relationship at all. I think you ate something.
Yep.
And we've got to work out what.
I'm just going to throw in there because making it all about me, of course. I had a moment. I had a moment yesterday where there's these chips that I really, really like, right?
Yeah, right.
And half an hour after eating them, I'm just a cranky, snappy, not pleasant person to be around.
Do they have chili and paprika on them?
No.
no.
We'll
There's
have to
there's
go
probably
through the
nothing natural in them at all. They're like the Swedish version of Twisties, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There's nothing natural in it at all. Not even potato. I don't even know what's in it, but I love them, right?
Really, yeah.
But I noticed that it started with a slight headache, and then I was just cranky, and and people who know me know that I stopped drinking a couple of years ago, and it was because I was having the same reaction to alcohol as well. I was becoming an exceptionally unpleasant person, and I was becoming quite mean. And I sort of sat down and went, well, that's not who I want to be. It's not who I want to, particularly as a parent. It's not fun for kids to be around that. Not fun for my
it's
wife
pretty
to be
scary,
around that
actually.
either. It is. So I stopped drinking. And I have been drinking a little bit over the past year, but every now and then, in the very, I had a giant 2-year break, and then I just sort of sat down and went, okay, well, I was at a party. Not that you need to know this, but we had friends over, and everybody's drinking wine. I'm like, you know what? Why am I punishing myself when I'm clearly going to have fun in this situation? So I sat down and had a couple glasses of wine, and it's been that ever since. But I still choose to not. What went from being, drinking on a socially acceptable, fairly regular basis to, now I choose non-alcoholic versions of what I would otherwise have been drinking. And it's, much more pleasant.
It's so much better.
Anyway,
yeah. Anyway, so Dad and my mother, they together developed their own food elimination diet, because at the time there was really no one to help them. But like I said, they were gifted in biochemistry and medicine, so they made it up as they went along, and they managed to work out that my father was intolerant to amines. Amines, which is a class of chemicals that are mostly produced by fermentation.
Okay.
So bacteria make it. You know how bacteria make alcohol as part of their life cycle? Some of them, well, some of them make biogenic monoamines as well, and they are very tasty. So they are the thing that makes food delicious, unfortunately.
So everybody out there having a biochemical reaction to amines, or a negative biochemical reaction to amines, should stay away from things like kombucha and kimchi and
yes. Oh, don't like. I'll tell you that bit in a minute.
So when your friends
get to the end of the story. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Right.
No. People know not to. And in fact, if you saw my little thing where bits of my brain are talking to each other, it was my prefrontal cortex talking to my hypothalamus, and the prefrontal cortex is like, I'm very upset.
Hypothalamus, right?
Yeah. So hypothalamus is deep down, like lizard brain, and prefrontal cortex is
hypothalamus is in the back here, like inside in the back.
Yeah, but very deep at the back. Yes, and sticking out into outside the blood-brain barrier into the rest of the body. So no protection, basically.
Up
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, anyway, but prefrontal cortex thinks thoughts and has cognition and stuff. The thing that they were talking about that I had done was eat cheese.
Yes.
Really stinky brie cheese. So So it sucks. But it's not only fermentation that does it. Some plants will actually stop themselves from flowering too early by sending a chemical signal, and that chemical signal is a biogenic monoamine. So the big winner that we all think of, none of us think of it, but if we were going to think of it, we would say mandarins. Mandarins use octopamine, which is a chemical that you use to signal, and it tells them, don't flower yet, don't flower yet, don't flower yet. Okay, go. Now, octopamine is also used as the signaling in the nervous system of most insects, and humans make it as well. And I think that's the key thing about monoamines is our emotions as humans are chemical reactions of monoamines.
Okay.
So there are 3 that are very famous. They are dopamine, noradrenaline, and serotonin.
Yep.
There are 4 that are not famous, and they are tyramine, tryptamine, beta-phenylethylamine, and octopamine.
So I'm just writing notes here, just so you know.
You don't have to. I'll write.
No, it's just because I'm building questions, right? So
okay, cool. Yeah. So anyway, so the problem we have with humans is this: we need to send those signals ourselves to have emotions. So you have to have a brain to think with. You're not a soul floating around having like thoughts without chemicals, right? You need those chemicals. And if they're out of balance, then you will have thoughts that don't reflect the environment, right? But because you've been exposed to it, you have those emotions. So the really good example is the drug ecstasy. So MDMA, some people call it Molly, party drug, makes you cuddly. If you get an overdose of it, your muscles melt in a horrible process called rhabdomyolysis. It's not great.
Uncle Rhabdo, yay!
Yay!
Sorry, as a fitness trainer,
I can't recommend it.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it. It's very, very dangerous. However, people who take that drug, it alters their emotions, right? But the reason it does is because it forces dopamine, noradrenaline, and serotonin out of the cells where it's being stored. It forces it into the synapse where it can communicate with other cells, and it stops it from being recycled back up into the place where it was stored for a time, right? So that's why it is called ecstasy, because it's a massive rush into the synapse. Now, my problem is that because I have an epic fail in certain enzymes in my liver, which are meant to stop this from happening, but don't. If I eat cinnamon or brie cheese or kombucha or cinnamon or nutmeg are particularly bad.
Really?
Then, it's awful.
God, see, you wouldn't survive over here. Swedes put cinnamon and nutmeg in everything.
I know. Yes. No. So normal people, you'd eat that. As it hit your liver would go, oh, this is a dangerous drug that I must change from a fat soluble molecule into a water soluble mulecule, and then you can urinate it and you will be safe. Except in me, it doesn't do that. Enough. So it goes straight into my bloodstream. And unfortunately, all through the body are receptors for these chemicals. So because they're part of the human signaling system. So there are trace amine associated receptors in the hypothalamus, in the pituitary gland, in the adrenal glands, in the pancreas, and God knows, probably in the thyroid as well. And then in the brain, right? So what happens to me is I have some cinnamon and nutmeg. And then for about a day and a half, I think I'm cured. I got away with it this time.
You're high, you're feeling great.
Probably not as high as if I went and took some Molly and went, partying. But I do feel good. I feel good. And then, so about a day and a half goes by and I think I got away with it. This was why it was so difficult for my parents to work out what it was, because it's like, it's not like, except in certain very odd situations like chili, we get an immediate reaction. I can tell you why, but never mind. We'll come back to that if you're super interested. But anyway.
I am, because chili gives me hiccups and I'm wondering if it's related.
No, that I can't answer. But you eat it and then there's this gap where you think, oh, I'm okay. But then a day and a half, 2 days after, I will get incredibly cranky. I will get very, very, like, when it's at its worst and I didn't know what it was, I would become tremendously agitated and my brain would be like a giant searchlight. It knew there was something wrong, but it couldn't work out what. So I would just focus on whatever it was that was worrying me the most. Now, I adore my husband, so it was usually him, because I was most concerned that our relationship, there was something wrong that had to be fixed. And also, like, we've been together for nearly 25 years. And so much as I love him, I also feel a lot of duty about him. And so this kind of chemical reaction makes you feel trapped. The reason why it makes you feel trapped is there's too much noradrenaline floating around your body and not enough serotonin to antagonize it and calm it down. So you literally feel like you're trapped. If you get a big enough dose, you feel like you're fighting for your life. Which is horrible. Like I've had, before I worked out what was wrong with me, I would sometimes emerged from it feeling like I had literally escaped death. And it'd be not in the kind of screamy way, but just in the I'm so shaken. And yet nothing bad had happened, actually. My life was objectively fine. And so like with the spouse, I'd go, you're trapping me in this situation. Why are you, my husband, who's meant to love me, doing this stuff? And he'd be like, dude, like,
just living my life, man.
You were fine yesterday with this, And look, he's a bit of a joker. My husband's name is Crash, by the way. I often say my husband because people go, Crash, is that a name? Is that a real name?
It's
Is
a cool name.
It's a good name. So Crash would say to me a joke, and that didn't, it would be silly but a little insensitive, and I'd laugh my head off because we've been together for so long. But if I had this chemical reaction going on, I'd be like, why would you say that to me? Why don't you love me anymore? And I would literally go into, how am I going to cope with our ultimate separation, right?
Oh my God.
And then a day and a half later, I'd be like, I'm not sure that was necessary, Liz, And so now that we know what it is, one, the reactions are much less because I don't mess up as often. I still do, but mostly for social reasons because I want to rather, But
it's coming, so
I know what it is. Yeah, it's very rare that it catches me out now. It does sometimes, but and that's always a problem because it affects all the relationships around me because So
can I ask, does it have a cumulative effect? So if you've had 2 or 3 things in a short period of time, is your reactions shorter and stronger? And if you leave it for, a couple of months, you can get away with having a little bit because you haven't had it.
So there's 2 things, right? One thing I didn't tell you yet, which affects all of this, is that when you eat an amine and you don't have enough enzymes to deal with it, one by itself is usually not enough. The only time when one exposure is just going to send you nuts is cinnamon or nutmeg. I can't do that at all. Or certain cheeses like gorgonzola. It's like, you're stuffed, like you're done. You just ate it and you're done. Or medications.
Okay.
And so lots and lots of drugs have a monoamine molecule hanging off them, which is not in the formal, this is what this drug does. You've actually got to look at the structural formula of the drug and go, does it have an amine group there? Is there a little NH2 hanging off there? Because if there is, this is going to hurt.
Okay, and I'm just going to jump in here just to be safe and clear, and I'm going to do a thing in the beginning of the podcast as well, and to say this by no means tells you to go off your medications in any way, shape, or form.
Not.
Discuss it with your doctor first, please.
Yes, and actually
we are talking about Liz's personal research and how this reacts to her own individual body. You may or may not be hearing yourself in this conversation. I am hearing myself in this conversation, but I'm not going to go off my meds because I need to discuss that with my doctor first. Okay.
Absolutely. And I would add to that, my situation is extremely specific to the genetics of my family, which I've been able to actually test somewhat, and I hope to test more. The other thing to remember is that all imbalances of monoamines cause some emotional dysregulation, right? And all of those things might look or feel the same, but they don't all have the same cause. So for example, you've got a presynaptic neuron and a postsynaptic neuron. So this one spits out some chemical and it goes into the space there, and this one picks it up. And then the body goes, oh, well, we don't want to waste that chemical because it's hard to grow. So all these little transporter molecules pick it up and put it back where it belongs, right? Now, some people, the little transporter molecule, they have a duplicate or triplicate gene for that. So they make triple the amount. So as soon as they spit it out, all the little molecule goes, oh, quick, let's, put it back. If it's transporting serotonin away too quickly, you will get all the stuff that I've got, but not for the reason I have it. it's because you've got the wrong genetics up in the brain, not down in your liver like me. So you might have the same symptoms. They might not come over the same time frame as me, but you might have similar symptoms. You might go, oh my God, that's me. But the way you would treat it is utterly different to how you would treat what I've got. Because with me, I've just got to not eat that stuff, right? And but if you've got that duplicate or triplicate transporter problem, you take a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. That's the perfect answer for you. So you've got to be.
It's very individual.
Yeah, it's very, very individual. And look, what it tells us is that this kind of medicine is about 100 years behind the rest of everything else we do. And I'd love it to catch up, please. That'd be nice. Yes.
You know, it feels like it's where it should be going. Because how do I put this without sounding like a complete hippie? I'm a complete hippie, right? I'm a complete hippie, and I'm all about.
I've seen your bushwalking posts from like Sweden. You're a hippie. It's fine.
Right? I'm a complete hippie. But one thing that, and you know, I'm all about getting in contact with yourself and your spirit and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm also very much in this 3-dimensional world and in my body and wanting to understand my body and wanting to help other people understand their bodies, because that is our experience. No matter what you believe about what happens in this world, we're all in a body and we're all here to have a good time, hopefully, and learn how to function in that. And
we all need a brain to think with, as I said before. You can't get away from that. And look, I think it's funny because often people talk about being holistic, where you recognize the whole person in medicine. What they mean is, you know, understand the soft social part of healthcare, which I think is important, like to acknowledge the person isn't just a foot, for example, if you're a podiatrist. But in my own experience of this food intolerance, / drug intolerance / mental illness, I would say holism for me has included understanding what my genetics was, understanding where my family came from. And I don't mean like, you know, Sydney, I mean like genetically, why are we the way we are and not like people from Southern Africa or Northern China or whatever. Like it's very specific to the place where we evolved, even if it was microevolutionary. And acknowledge that and go, other people can do this thing, I can't. I just can't do that thing. So one last bit that we were leaving out, which is helpful. So we were saying before, don't eat that stuff. So don't eat these byproducts of fermentation or these particular kind of fruits or spices. But there's a twist which makes it worse. And that is that enzymes can be blocked by foods, drinks, and drugs. Okay. So the most famous one is if you're taking certain medications, you're told that you can't drink grapefruit juice as well because it blocks one of the enzymes that the drug needs to work in your body, right? Well, it turns out grapefruit juice is just the tip of the iceberg. So many, many herbs inhibit enzyme function in your body. In fact, we are very keen on this in marketing of food. If it says antioxidant, what it means is, if it's an antioxidant, it means it's blocking enzymes that's usual job is to oxidate food, which means make them water soluble so you can excrete them. I mean, it's not the only thing it means, but that's kind of it, right? Now, other people in food marketing are like, antioxidants are great. But for me, it's a warning sign. If it says antioxidant, what it means is I probably shouldn't be eating it. And if I do eat it, it has to be only a tiny bit, because I have like everybody else has this much enzyme to start off with in their liver to break down amines. I've got like that much. But if I eat those, in pharmacology, they're called inhibitors, I've got that much. So it's just, it makes me much, much more vulnerable. And out of interest, alcohol is a potent inhibitor of many enzymes.
Well, that's why a lot of people drink red wine. It's an antioxidant.
Yeah. Well, it is an antioxidant, but the so red wine has antioxidants in it, including anthocyanins, which are like from the red color pigment of the grapes. But the alcohol itself is also an inhibitor. And the alcohol probably, like I keep on reading articles that say, oh, maybe it does, or maybe it doesn't. I'm like, make up your mind, people. But the blood-brain barrier isn't as much of a barrier as we would like to think. Okay. But one of the things that alcohol can do is actually force it open a little bit as it goes by. So all this crud goes into your brain that wouldn't usually.
Oh, all the more reason.
Yeah. Which is, sorry.
Sorry, brain.
It's not just the liver you need to apologize to.
Sorry, brain.
Yeah. So basically the take-home message for me is I am the opposite of what health marketing tells me to be, because sort of the wellness industry will tell you antioxidants are good for you, whereas I've got to go, no, antioxidants are like crazy town. And secondly, people deeply believe, both in naturopathy and herbalism and in Western biomedicine as well, they believe if you're sick, you need a thing added in, and that added thing will fix you, right? So whether it's herbs will fix you, or add in these exercises, or add in this medicine we made in a lab. And for me and this condition, the most effective thing I can do is stop putting things in. And by that, I don't mean not eat, because I eat loads, but it has to be low in those substances. And I have to be extremely careful of what herbs I eat. I'm pretty much herb free now, apart from parsley and thyme. It's pretty sad because I lived all over the world. I used to make my own Indian spices. I like spice blends and stuff, but that part is over now.
or it's crazy town, one or the other.
No, like the crazy town is so crazy. It's horrifying. It's awful. Yeah.
So, but how restricted is your current diet, and is it just going to get more and more restricted, or do you know what I mean?
If my dad's anything to, so there's a mistake people can make with amine intolerance and with a lot of other food intolerances as well. It's just they think if I cut it out completely, I'll be well, right? This is not true, because the more that you cut it out, the less enzyme you make to break it down, which means that you, if you have an accidental exposure, it's absolutely horrendous. Right. So you've got to have some all the time to keep what little enzyme you've got ticking over. This is like a function of pharmacology, which is called upregulation, if anyone cares to look that up. So you got to keep yourself kind of a bit upregulated. But so I don't try and eradicate it, but I have kind of tried to eradicate the worst inhibitors because it's just life's hell without it. But here's the good news, particularly for all those people who are interested in dietetics and healthy eating. Amine intolerance is the healthiest disease in the world if you eat right for it.
There you go.
Yeah, because like some other food intolerance, it's not like some other food intolerances where you can't have fruits and vegetables. So there are people who are like that. I am not. There are certain fruits I don't do anymore, like the citrus is kind of out. Grapefruit is definitely not on. There are herbal teas that are just horrendous for me. And I don't eat, I have to watch out with cheeses. Like I can have cottage cheese and ricotta and Philly cheese and that's it, I'm done kind of thing. I went crazy.
I hear you. I
went crazy the other day and I had a piece of feta this big and I'm like, oh, baby, rain it in. It's like, but I eat huge amounts of lentils.
Okay.
And I can have, lots and lots and lots of vegetables of all kinds. So I eat lots and lots of, brightly colored multi-vegetables. I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian, even though I was brought up vegetarian. I jumped that ship, but I try and keep the amount of meat down. I want to binge eat white flour or chocolate. Those are the two, like white bread and chocolate are the two things that I just, and I know why with the chocolate. Chocolate's very, very high in an amine called beta-phenethylamine, and it's chemically very, very similar to ecstasy. So I think I get more reward from chocolate than normal people.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I do. I really do. But I also get punished very much more swiftly than other people. So I try and contain it. It's the one thing I find it very difficult to stop. One of my two sons has inherited this from me, and he's a bit worse than me because he's male. And my theory is that most of these genes are X-linked. So females will have like a moderate, intermediate amount, and males will have
a lower
either
amount,
a normal or a low. And the older one is low. He hates chocolate, but he can't let go of sour lime. He loves that. Like, I know another child where it took me 2 years to convince her mother to get her tested for this. I kept saying, I swear to God, she's got this. She's got an amine intolerance. I'm begging you, before she hits puberty, please, because I said, look, female sex hormones also inhibit these enzymes that break down amines. So she's going to have a very, very rough puberty if you don't get it organized now. God. I'm begging you. And in the end, it turned out she was hugely, hugely intolerant when she saw a dietitian about it. Yeah. And she can, like, I can't give up chocolate. My son can't give up limes. She can't walk by cheese, even though she tries. So there is a kind of, people say I'm a chocoholic. Some of them really are, actually. Yeah. They're addicted to beta-phenethylamine or tyramine or something in there. So, yes, but it doesn't stop me from having a healthy caloric intake of a broad range of whole foods. So, don't be afraid about that.
I love it. Yes, God, and it is for me. It's just fascinating being reminded of that. It's and sorry, my brain's running at a million miles an hour here. I'm trying to it's thinking faster than I can talk, which usually happens actually.
It's a bit complicated, but once you get it,
I know, but like for me, because my current I do a lot of work with kids in Buddha and that kind of stuff, and one of the things that I'm really coming up against is, and because I'm a physical person, is getting people to feel their emotions, right? Like kids these days, and humans, not kids are also humans, sorry, adults and kids. Right, yes. Adults and kids, we're sort of thinking our emotions rather than feeling our emotions. But, this brings it back to our emotions are also a chemical reaction in the body. And we do need to take into account the chemical situation. That's not the right word. Balances that are happening.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
It is if we are having an emotion, that creates a chemical reaction in the body, and if we are consuming foods, that creates a chemical in the body that can create the emotion. So there is this. It's separated, but it needs to be brought together, and it's fascinating.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's deeply frustrating in our family because when we have these extreme emotions, you can't tell the difference between that and a real emotion because it's all the same chemistry. It's exactly the same. Actually, that's not quite true. There are some exposures where you go, nobody feels shame and guilt and fear and paranoia and rage like this all at once.
Yep.
This cannot be normal.
This isn't, yeah.
And so I have two.
This is a food emotion rather than a feeling emotion.
Yeah, that's right. But it's tough to feel that unless it's really extreme. And look, if I could get whatever the dose is that's in my brain into your brain, you would feel it too. It's like we are animals, or we are chemical systems. It shouldn't be there. So two stories about that. One is my older son, he was 7, and this is when I started to really think, 6, he was 6. I thought, hang on. I think he has this too. And he really, really loved fried chicken with secret herbs and spices in them.
A certain particular one.
Yes. A certain type, yes. And
may or may not be one of my secret dirty little jokes, not jokes, little secrets.
He liked wings that were spicy hot. And we went to a food court at a shopping centre one day with the little brother who was 3 and this child who was 6. He's 14 now, but anyway.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. And he said, Mummy, I want those. And I said, no, I don't think you should have them. And he said, oh, but I want them. I said, no. And then for reasons which I can't remember, he ended up going off with Daddy instead and convinced Daddy to get them for him. So I come back to yes. And Daddy hadn't at that time got the memo. He does now. Now he would be, what are you talking about? That's stupid. You'll suffer for days. You're an idiot. Stop it.
We'll all suffer for days.
That's right. Exactly. But at the time he didn't know. And my very affable son, nevertheless, at that time was like, no, I want them. And I said, right, okay, fine. I want you to eat them. Fine, you can eat them. But in 2 days, when you are so upset that you want to throw yourself on the spikes and die, which he'd already said another time he'd had a horrible exposure. And I was like, yeah, this is probably not normal in a 6-year-old. I said, I am going to remind you that you did this and that this is why. Anyway, so with like clockwork at the day 2, he was actually sitting there, literally his hands going, Mummy, when is this going to stop? I want to throw myself on the spikes and die. And I said, darling, you have to remember this feeling because it's not a real feeling. It's because of that. And I don't want you to feel this anymore. You've got to stop eating it. Okay, now I'm going to look after you until this goes away, but it's going to be another 2 days.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes me sound like a brutal monster, actually, that story.
No, it doesn't, not at all. You know, like,
but what else to do? And now he's and he's amazing now because when any of us go into that overdrive, particularly when he was a little boy, because he'd eat mandarins of other children had brought to school and come home and be like, and he'd get really angry and screamy, and I'd say to him, and this is actually something, I'm telling you this because we bring back to this whole idea of feeling your emotions. What I find is very often we're taught if somebody's got an emotion, you're meant to try and problem solve it, right? You go, all right. Or you go, this is an inappropriate emotion. Your anger does not, appropriate. And so we're going to now talk it through. You cannot do this with this.
No.
You cannot.
It's irrational.
The person's off on a trip that they can't come down from. They literally cannot clear enough adrenaline out of their body for another day or 2. So the only thing you can do is what we do in the family now all the time, which is say, I can see you're very upset, but I love you very much and I'm going to look after you. And if this feels the same in a couple of days, then we'll try and deal with the reasons. And now, it's been a while since I had one like this, but maybe, 6 months ago, I was like in the backyard crying, going, everybody hates me and I hate myself and this is all terrible. And my 14-year-old son comes out and just puts his arms around me and goes, I love you so much. And I know this hurts a lot, but I'm going to look after you. And in 2 days, if it's still bad, we'll talk about it. I was like, oh my God, I love you so much. Yes, exactly. Tears, darling, tears. That's right. But
tears.
Yes, tears. But this works on other people too. Not just people with food intolerances. And so the biggest problem for me with relationships and also relating to myself is I get sometimes these very intense reactions and I can't tell because when it's very extreme you can tell, but when it's a bit it's just unpleasant, you can't tell. It's like, have I had a bad day? Am I being unreasonable? Am I really trapped or not? I'm probably not, but it's hard to say. So
or did I eat cheese?
Yeah. Or did I eat cheese? 2 days ago, can't remember, So instead, I have to do what people tell you to do in psychology, which is the whole cognitive behavioral therapy thing, where I go, I am having an emotion and I accept my emotion, but I'm not going to act on it now because it might be a whole bottle of crazy. So in 2 days, I'm going to ask myself, is this actually still a problem? And that's great mostly, but it has a downside. And that is that I think both my son and I and my dad and everything, we live, and my brother, because my brother has this too. He has 3 children now. Who knows which one of them yet? It's hard to tell at this point. Maybe, maybe not. But we all have learned to rein it in for the sake of not appearing completely insane to everyone around us. But it means that sometimes, every now and again, somebody will yell at somebody else, just because I have an Amine intolerance doesn't mean I don't have real emotions.
I'm sorry. I should
be
more understanding. It's awesome.
It's funny. It's awesome. Funny because it's true.
It's fantastic. But and everybody else in the family's just gone, yeah, okay.
No, everybody else in the family goes, we're not going to engage with whatever the problem that you think it is. We're not engaging with that today.
Yeah.
You got to calm down or go to bed or have a rest or we'll just hug you, but we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
And the trick is, if you've got something that really is bothering you, how do you deal with it? Not like that.
Yeah.
That's a life challenge. I don't know the answer to that one.
We communicate.
Yes. Well, you try. You do your best. But the thing is, if you say to somebody in the family, I'm not happy about this, they say, have you eaten any mandarins? Where you used to go, no, I haven't. I'm actually
I'm really pissed.
Can I have a note from my doctor saying I'm legitimately angry today? Yeah,
I love
it's tricky.
I love
it's
it.
very tricky.
Well, and I guess that's what life is about, is learning to understand things.
That's true. So there you go. Amine intolerance.
Amine intolerance is fantastic. And for anybody listening, wondering, go do the research. Go look it up. Google it.
Look, a lot of the research is really hard to read if you don't read pharmacology.
If you're not a science brain person.
Yeah, and I was very lucky because I had a master's degree in public health when I started trying to work this out. Plus, I had my dad who'd been trying to work it out for 40 years before me, and one of my very close friends is a doctor of dietetics. So I don't think you can just work it out that easily. Without that support, but also dumb luck. So humorously, the thing that got me started was Britney Spears, believe it or not. So I feel for Britney Spears because I think she's got a very severe and refractory mental illness. So whatever is up with her is not
Britney.
Yeah, look, I think whatever is up with her is not that amenable to medications, I'd say. And I'd say it's a lifelong struggle for her, regardless of whatever other things have gone right in her life. So years ago, when I was trying to work out how to stay asleep and all the rest of it, I was folding clothes and not watching E-News because I'm very highbrow and wouldn't do that. And this thing came on where Britney was like a judge on The Voice, and they had this article in on the TV saying, Britney's been a bit weird on The Voice, but look, Simon Cowell really understands because she can't take a normal ADHD medication at the moment because she's taking another medicine that interacts with it, and we're all good. And as somebody who's thought a lot about the human rights aspects of healthcare, I was appalled by that and a little shocked that it was on the TV at all, because I don't care how famous you are, that's your business.
Not okay.
Yeah. But boom. Anyway, but then moving on from that, I thought, well, I'm a nosy person. What drug is it that is contraindicated by her, her ADHD meds? So of course I Googled, ADHD contraindications. And one of the things that came up was monoamine oxidase A inhibitors, right? And they said, well, this is a drug that has, it's like the very first antidepressants, and it's sort of a last line drug now, because it's really annoying to take, because you have to follow a strict diet.
Okay.
And I looked at the diet and I went, oh, that's my diet. And so for a while I thought, oh, maybe if I took monoamine oxidase inhibitors, I'd get better. But it turns out, no, I'd just get spectacularly worse, which I did accidentally, because of course they usually inhibit your monoamine oxidase enzyme up here, but I was already way down there to begin with. If I took the drugs, I'd jump off a bridge or something, I presume. Not good for me. But once I realized that, I thought, I wonder if it's just that enzyme. Now I realize it's at least 6, probably 7 of them. It's quite complicated and polygenic, but at least that's where I started. But if people want to work it out, they really don't need to do what I did, because, there's no genetic test at the moment where you say, hi, I'm amine intolerant, can you tell me the answer? I had to do it backwards. I had to say to people, oh, I can't take this medicine, so what gene is that? Whereas now I did that. Now, instead of saying to doctors, look, I can't eat pepperoni, it makes me want to die. Instead, I say, I've got a low activity polymorphism for CYP2D6, CYP3A4, and CYP2C9. Which drug can you give me? And they go, oh, I can look that up.
Yes.
So yeah, it's very, very hard if you didn't have that like magical luck that I did of being in the right, social group to be able to do that. But what people can do is any dietitian that's like a registered practicing dietitian can test you for amine intolerance. You still might have to struggle a bit to work out which medications you can have, but the food part, they know that bit. They know it very well. The other thing is there are other food intolerances that are not the one that I have that also have mood effects. So some people with salicylate intolerance get terrible mood effects from it. Some people who are intolerant to, oh my God, I haven't thought about this class of enzyme in a long time. Glutamates. Some people who are intolerant to glutamates do very, very poorly emotionally. So to the people intolerant to histamine. So it doesn't have to be mine for a dietitian to be able to help you.
So
mine's just weird. Yeah, see a dietitian.
You're an individual,
don't see a doctor,
right? No.
Yeah. That's right.
We're all individuals and we're all different, and
And don't stop taking medications until you. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. Stay safe. Step by step. Yeah. So there you go.
So there it is. That's that. Awesome. I love it. I really thank you for doing all that work. It's fantastic, and it's I'm on a little mish to fix up some of my dietary issues. Before I turn 50, because I'm a bit
good plan.
I
tell you what,
midlife crisis, anybody, but
I am inspired by Epicurus, who was an ancient Greek philosopher. Right, and you can go read him yourself, but I think the summary is he said, rather than trying to load up on complicated rich foods, try and take delight in simple food that is nourishing and good for you. You'll be a lot happier. And that's true.
Thank you, Epicurus.
There you go, dude. That's right.
Words of wisdom.
Now, do you have any questions about feet?
Oh my goodness. Yes. So getting back to your chosen life
well,
path.
It is my current chosen profession, not my first passion, but moment, one of them. Yeah.
Anybody who works with me knows that I am a big proponent of barefoot and movement theory. And again, my lived experience or my life experience has been that, people are like, here, put an orthotic in your foot, you'll be fine. And I've done that, and I wasn't.
Damn. Yes.
And as I've gotten older, and also because my chosen profession as a personal trainer, I again, as a personal trainer, all these words, sorry.
Yes.
As a personal trainer, I have chosen to specialize in functional training, and in doing that, and the research that I've been doing is all about helping people connect in with their deep core, and connecting with their muscles in a functional way, which includes the foot.
Yeah. Continue.
These things on the bottom of your legs and toes and things.
They're very handy. Go ahead. Yes.
And it is my experience that a lot of people just have no idea what's going on with their feet. And they're completely disconnected from them. And for me, what getting into barefoot shoes has done is getting me back in contact with my feet, but also how the rest of my body functions when I have access to my feet, and the muscular trains that activate from your big toe to your forehead whilst you're walking and being active and things like that. So I'm so curious.
All right, yes, go, yes.
On your professional opinion.
Yes, ma'am.
As the expert in the room on podiatry, where do you stand on barefoot shoes and barefoot theory and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think the same thing pertains to what we were just talking about. So it's easy to come across a good idea that works in some contexts and go, yay, I have found the answer. But, it might not work for other people because they have a different liver to you, as I have in the last thing. And with feet, there's so many different variations in feet that it really does depend on what's going on with them as to whether barefoot theory will work or not, in my experience. Podiatry as a profession isn't that keen formally on barefoot running, but I think there's more than one.
Can I just throw this in as a little caveat?
Yeah,
I'm not that keen on running.
Well,
you don't have to run if you don't want to. Flat out running. If you don't want to run, you don't have to, right?
I think that's so yes. So look. When people, my view of orthotics is this, right? They immobilize your foot in particular ways, right? So that's never ideal. It would be much better if you could get the full motion of your foot. In theory, in an ideal world. But the problem is that there are some feet that are just really not gonna cut it when it comes to that. They need to be immobilized actually, because we can't actually alter what's wrong with the joints with the technology that we have at the moment. So look, most of the people that I see where I say, yes, you need an orthotic, are people who have very hypermobile foot joints.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
So somebody said to me once recently, oh, you're going to hate me. And I was like, really, why? And he said, well, because I believe in barefoot running. It's been the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And I said, well, good for you. That's great. And he said, why aren't you upset? I'm like, well, because, that was the right thing. That worked, And he said, well, do you believe in barefoot running? And I said, well, I guess if you've got a, high-pitched subtalar joint axis that's not too high-pitched, and you're not too hypermobile in your foot joints, and you've got not too much rear foot eversion, and I went through the list, and like, then sure, why not? Off you go. We'll all stand at the sidelines and applaud. But most of the people that I see are, so in general English, we sort of say, oh, you have a flat foot, right? But really, there's probably 5 or 6 different issues that would all sort of lead to somebody excessively rocking over on their ankle joint as they walk. And all of those things, even though they have different causes, sort of have the practical effect that your foot rolls over too far inwards as you're stepping. when it rolls over too far, it interferes with the movement upwards of your big toe. And if that can't go up high enough, then your arch can't, like the plantar fascia in your arch can't move normally. Your Achilles tendon can't move normally, which means that the locking mechanism in your midfoot can't lock. So you go down as a floppy foot onto the terrain, but you can't lock properly to push off again. So you sort of go down and over and then go, and then down and over again. So you end up clawing the ground, or you end up rolling too far, or you end up with heel pain because you abduct, and then you have to lift your heels early,
and then your piriformis clenches in to externally rotate your foot so that you can lift it.
And then you get a really tight hip rotators and all that
sore
stuff
lower
happens.
back.
Yes, and
anyway.
your Achilles. Yes. And look, then there are other people who they've got a tibial varum, so like from their knee to their ankle, they're tipped outwards that way.
Yep.
And that means that their foot goes up like that, so they go like that.
Yep.
And that hurts. And often on top of that, you'll have those people sometimes, but not always, have a very cavoid foot. So instead of it being a very flat foot, it's up like that. And that means that all of the pressure's on a couple of bones in the forefoot and in the heel, and you get massive callus and it hurts, and there's tissue stress, blah, blah, blah. So my answer is there are people who are going to need their arch supported because there is no other way out for them. I see some people who, like, you're at the sporty end, right?
Wow.
And there are, like, compared to my 90-year-old patients.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't train 90-year-olds. My eldest client is 75. So
excellent. Right. So look, you see a whole bunch of stuff where people go from like 35 to 50, where they go, I'm not as springy as I used to be, and now it hurts. And you say to them, well, your skeleton was always a bit individual, and you've been able to compensate because you've been young and elastic enough for that, but now you are not. And so that compensation is becoming painful. And so rather than make you keep rolling over and compensating for that, why don't we just prop it up? So that's where orthotics come in. And usually, like, podiatrists are like dentists. People don't come to you until they're in dire straits. So I've had people where they couldn't walk barefoot down the hall to do the gait analysis because their heels hurt so much. And I had to stop the analysis and say, just sit. This is too much. So when you have someone like that, it's a bit different from saying, like, oh,
somebody who can walk through the door and going, hi, I've got a bit of pain in my foot.
That's right. Yeah. And look, whenever you have foot pain, there's 3 questions that I always ask, which is 1, what's your footwear like? Is it supporting the foot that you've got? And then 2, what stretching or strengthening or both can you do? And then 3, do I need to prop up this foot in any way? And so that's sort of like, I try and keep people out of orthotics, actually, but it's very often not possible. I also, so that's the 30 to maybe 60-year-olds. Once you get over that, what we're really doing is saying, you've got diabetes, which has affected your blood flow in your foot and affected your rate of healing in your foot. So our job is to stop you from getting foot wounds and then having an amputation. And so that's like, and often those people have foot deformities as well. So they've got clawed toes, or they've got a plantar flex joint where instead of it going like that, it's going like that into the ground. Their Achilles tendon will shorten up spectacularly and can't be stretched out because of diabetic disease. And so the forces on their forefoot become enormous. And so that's a whole other kettle of fish where you're just going, I just wanted you to keep your foot. Like you can get old and die, but you cannot lose your foot on my watch. It's pretty much how I see that. So So look, in some ways, barefoot running is a wonderful problem to have to argue about, because you're still enough to
absolutely
give it a try.
And for me, for the 35 to 60-year-old age group, which is actually my age group that I deal with,
train
is we do a session of developing as I sit here slunched like this, and then I connect it with my core, getting in contact with that deep core and gait analysis, and then try and get them to, get, like I say, get back in contact with their feet so much as even just being able to push into the ground with your big toe. And then, getting back in contact. But it is that it's fascinating. It is that whole, we're not as elastic as we used to be. And
no.
we have to be reminded to be more elastic. We have to be reminded to do the stretching and the self massage and keep the blood flow in the area, so that we can keep the contact, so that we can stay mobile and moving.
And look, the worst people, I mean, they're not the worst, but the people who end up in the most pain that are younger, I find, are tradespeople, so builders and plumbers and stuff. And that seems to be because they do a lot of lifting and carrying, but no stretching at all. So they have these really bulky short muscles, and they've got these really short tendons, and they're like, I can't not work, but I can't walk, and I'm like, right. And for people like that, I will often put them into orthotics, because it's like, well, you're not going to rest, you're not going to stretch.
I hear that.
Or you are, but you can't do it in time to, like, you've got to work now. So, and in fact, I think that's like a harm reduction approach. It's like, you're going to keep doing this thing that's bad for you, and I can't really stop you. And like I had once a patient who was, he grew up overseas, and he was drafted into the army in the country to do national service in the place where he grew up before he came to Australia. And he's convinced that all of his foot problems happened when he had ill-fitting boots in the army, which is possible. I mean, there's no reason why that can't be from looking at what was up with his foot. But he had enormous, enormous corns on the bottom of his feet. And I kept saying to him, look, these are caused by pressure. And I really want to talk with you about, how an orthotic could offload that pressure. And he was like, I won't have anything to do with it. It's all malarkey. I've had this conversation with other people before. Look at my notes. I was like, okay, well, look, if you don't want to, I'm not going to make you. Like, I believe in the liberty of the patient above pretty much all other considerations. But, you're also in a lot of pain all the time, and I don't like that either. So, and so we ended up doing a lot of kind of, even though he wasn't at work, he was a tiler, right?
Okay.
So I was going through all of the movements of tiling and how he stands, and when he does squatting, how he does that squatting. And, I kept on trying to problem solve, and he kept saying, that's a good idea, but it's not going to work because, and so I don't think we came up with an answer. But what we did do is actually engage with it, rather than me go, well, you just need this. Or him going, don't tell me that again, Missy. We were able to
tell me what to do.
You do? That's I know. So I think it's an inexact science. It's very hard to run a randomized controlled trial of an orthotic, because the podiatrist can tell a sham one from a real one just by looking at it, right? Even if it was made by someone else. And the patient can tell as well. So it's very, very hard to do the kind of, gold standard studies that you would do with a medication, for example. So it really is an art as well as a science. And I think this is why anyone who gets up on their high horse and says, well, you barefoot runners all suck, you're no good. I think they're overstepping, because it really is about working with each person to see, well, what can you get? I mean, there's some obvious ones, like, how you were saying people should, get in touch with their toes. Well, some people have a rigid or an almost rigid joint of their big toe. So like you know, if that was your big toe joint, it's that one there.
Yep.
So the toe should go up 65 degrees, the big toe. It does not.
As I do that with my foot. Hold on a minute.
Does it go up 65 degrees when you're not standing on it?
I don't have a goniometer here to find out. I reckon if that's or I'm not sure. I reckon we might
Stick
be at
it up
50.
and let me see.
Hold on.
Okay, no.
It's not gonna work.
No, it's not gonna work.
You
need to sorry, this is my foot.
Here we
you
go.
need to hold it like that and
there
do
we
that.
go.
No, you've got to do it with your here
No,
we go.
but I broke this toe, right? This is my broken
right.
joint. That's as far as it goes.
Yeah. So it's not too bad. Even if that's from a distance. Like between 40 and 65 degrees, you'll probably get away with it.
Yeah,
right?
I reckon it's at about 50.
Is that the one that felt numb after you went cross country?
No,
skiing?
that's the other leg. That's the other. But I still have. Not that we're here to diagnose my issues.
Sorry,
I still have a bit of nervous impingement, and I get if I've been overworking, I get numbness in my little toe now.
That's hung on a long time. That's like 2 years, 3 years that happened.
Yeah, but that's a whole other story, and we can go.
All right, well, never mind. Sorry, fade the blood. But
anyway, I know what's
point...
causing it, and I need to deal with it.
Hurrah! Yes, good. All right. Well, maybe another time we will find that out. But anyway, some people's toes just don't go up. Like they should go up to there, but they sort of go up there.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, they have horrible lower back pain, and they have pain on the top of their toe and on these little toes. And for someone like that, if they said, should I do barefoot running? I would be like, hell no. No.
Hell no. Go see my friend Liz.
Yes, that's right. You need an orthotic and you need a rocket 4-foot soled shoe, and you should do it right now, you know. So yeah, horses for courses there, my friend. I don't know if that answers that question.
No, it's perfect, because I totally agree. I mean, you know, barefoot is working for me, and it works for a lot of people. And in the studio, we train without shoes on, and because we are all about getting you to get in contact with your body. But at the same time, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work.
No, you know? That's right. For whatever reason.
Path. Like, you know, I'm not the end all and be all, and my opinion is not the only one out there. And your body is your body. We're all individuals, and we're going to find a way to keep happy. Hopefully. Yes. Find our fit. I'm going to throw that in there somewhere. Hashtag find your fit.
You found it. There it was. Yeah.
Well, my friend. Right. I think we're going to have to wrap it up, because I've been away from my little kids for long enough, and my wife's probably going to kill me. We've been
try and prevent sudden death.
Yeah, you know, we've been talking for probably an hour and 20 minutes. It's a long time.
All right, edit. Time to edit.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah. It's where you all get to work out that I don't do very little editing. Anyway.
Oh, right. Yes. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for putting up with all of that.
Thank you.
Amine talk.
So, yes. Because, I mean, you know, people... the Amine thing isn't what you do, so I'm not going to encourage people to get in contact with you about that. But if people do want to get in contact with you about feet and podiatry, if that's, or you were going to say, sorry, talked over you.
Oh no, I was going to say, I have a 14-page quick start guide for what I found out about my amine intolerance.
Do you have that available as a download?
I do. I can just send that to you as a download, but you should be aware, anybody who's looking at it, that this is just stuff I found out about me, and it's things I learned that I needed to ask doctors, but you can use it to talk to dietitians or doctors, and it has some of the genetics involved listed there and the names. So if you're worried about a medication, it's my pleasure.
So I'll put a link to that in the show notes, or if you want a copy of it, we'll make it work. There'll be something in the show notes to make you available for you. And what about podiatry? Can people come to you? People in Sydney come to you for their foot issues? How do they do that?
I'm at the podiatry clinic at 51 Station Street in Wentworthville. Ooh, that's where I am. My name is Liz.
Go see Liz for your foot things. Yeah. All right, Liz. All good. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. You're amazing.
I do my best.
What else can I say? I hope to have another conversation with you soon, but you know, not in this one.
About something not clinical. That would be great.
Or you know, off air we can talk about my back issue.
Yes, good idea.
All right, but thank you, and I'm going to stop recording.
And once again, thank you, Liz, from the bottom of my heart for coming on to the Good to Go pod and having a good old chat with me about stuff. Takeaways. I think my takeaway from this particular conversation, like I really recognize myself in a lot of stuff that we were talking about, particularly in food intolerances. And, you know, if I'm being 100% honest, in this moment in time, I don't have time or energy to go and do the investigation. I do, however, have time and energy to just sit down and recognize and notice and do a bit of personal work there and understand whether or not, you know, my mood swings or my moods or my emotions are food related, or if I'm genuinely having a not okay time, or, you know, if I need to check in with the people around me and communicate and that kind of stuff. Not just with others, but also with yourself, you know, because I'm always a big fan of doing the personal work. So yeah, wow, amines. So many things that can go on there. I've got written down on my notes here. Look, lots of notes. What else have I got there? Do your research, people. Liz did mention that she would send me through the documents. She has. If you would like to get a copy of those documents, please send me an email or contact me whatever way you can. Excuse me, sorry. Feel free to contact me and I will send them through to you. Not a problem. Other than that, yeah, you know, go in, check your stuff, do the research. If you can't do the research yourself, find somebody who has already done it. And, you know, my experience is somebody has already done the research. In this case, Liz has, and her family have done a lot of research there for you. So, you know, go and get in contact with them, or not, or get in contact with me and I'll send you the research. So thanks, guys. I love your work. Get in, do your stuff, find your fit, and we will talk to you in the next episode. Bye for now.